Take a little pause right here in the service as we want to recall moments over the past year. And Rabbi Klings Perkins will be speaking to this in just a few minutes in her drasha. But this marks a year that has been unlike any other year that any of us have experienced, a year of challenge, a year of losses, a year of not seeing each other's faces outside in person, a year of sitting here in our own homes for our moments of connection through our computers, a most surreal experience, a year where we try to support each other, but we haven't been able to hug each other or to eat together in one's presence. So we wanted to take a moment to mark this year, this Shabbat, as we've entered into our second year. Hopefully we see the light at the end of the tunnel. Many of you have shared that you've already received the vaccine. And so we see opportunities to come back together in the way we always have. And it's really appropriate that Jacob just took the Maftir Aliyah, and in just a few moments he's going to read the Haftarah, as Jacob was our brave Chalutz. He was our brave first one, our Nachshon. Nachshon was, of course, the person who went into the Sea of Reeds first, and Jacob was the first one to experience a bar mitzvah in this format. And so he marks that moment by reading his Haftarah again. And I want to, before we read this Haftarah, just take a moment to acknowledge how difficult this has been on our community, but also to celebrate the strength and resilience of our community that has found new ways to gather, new ways to strengthen one another. And we have done that. And as I look upon our community, switching to gallery view for just a moment, we see how we have come together, how we've supported each other, even built new connections in this time. And that's really a testament to who we are and what we have built together in our Emunah family. I want to mark this moment by looking at a pasuk at the end of the double portion that we read, Vayakel Pekude, that is the portion for this Shabbat, as we conclude the book of Shmot. It's a very powerful ending. It is discussing how there is this fire that guided us at night as the Israelites went through the wilderness, and a cloud that was present during the day. And so the Torah recounting this speaks about when the pillar moved, the Israelites moved. And when the pillar stopped, they stopped. Now, of course, it then means that over these 40 years in the wilderness, the pillar stopped to tell our ancestors that they were going to stay in place. And in these moments, they weren't physically walking. They were engaged in a kind of active waiting. And these times were, of course, fundamental to our ancestors' journey, including allowing time for Miriam to heal at one of these stops, for building the Mishkan, our portable sanctuary in the wilderness. And of course, this relates to this time. In the face of the coronavirus, COVID-19, life as normal has halted, with the exception of maybe those on the front lines providing healthcare and sustenance. Most of us have been asked to stop our regular interactions and activities, in essence, to wait. Our ancestors turned to that pillar for strength and support in their time of waiting. So too we can turn for help in these unprecedented times. Here is my prayer for this moment. Ribon HaOlam, the one who guides the universe, we ask that you be here for us, as you were for our ancestors, a pillar in our midst. Help us turn to you, Adonai, our God, for guidance during these troubled times. We ask you for strength in the weeks ahead and in the months ahead. Help us continue to reach out to one another in love and compassion, to support all those who are coping with illness and losses. And we continue to be thankful to our scientists and doctors and all those engaged in bringing this vaccine to all of our arms. Be with all those who are in need of support, offering them compassion. And we pray healing of body and healing of soul. Refuata nefesh, refuata guf. Be with all those who lead us. Help them make the right decisions as they guide us in these most difficult days. Be our rock to whom we can turn and to give our worries and fears. And as we pray that we are, in fact, turning the corner, looking ahead with, God willing, a positive outlook, we are grateful for all the sustenance we have received. We look to the future with hope. May this be our prayer. Ken Yiratzon, and let us all say, Amen. We'll now invite you to turn ahead in your Chumash to the special Haftarah for Parshat, for Shabbat HaChodesh, the final of the 4 special Shabbatot leading to Pesach. It begins on page 1291, and the prophet Ezekiel brings us from the first Pesach, which we just read in the Maftir portion, to a future Pesach. Whenever we mention Pesach and the Exodus, it has 2 levels. One is the past, one is understanding that we were redeemed from Egypt, and one is the future, that we are building towards a future redemption. And so Ezekiel takes us on a journey to the Beit HaMikdash, to a space of gathering. I think this is most appropriate for today, as we are actually in our homes, most of us, in our own individual spaces, but yet create holiness through this shared space. Just as the Beit HaMikdash brought us together thousands of years ago, the shul is our community, whether it's a physical building or it is this Zoom space. We have created holiness in time through this gathering. So I'll invite Jacob to chant this Haftarah as he did 1 year ago and bring us into this moment as we prepare for Pesach. Jacob, I'll invite you to start chanting. I know there's a little issue maybe with the microphone, so we'll see how it goes. We send you some strength and support as we acknowledge this day a year ago. I'll just say a word or two more about the Haftarah as we prepare for it. It is, in fact, a reminder that we are called in, if you will, to offer Pesach in many different ways. That Pesach is, in fact, a symbol of hope. And I think going back to the 2 readings, that we live in essence in these 2 spaces, a space of the past, a space of the Pesach that we're going to celebrate in our own homes, which you can see from the Maftir portion, was every household was to engage in a Pesach, was to bring their own lamb, was to have their own symbol on the doorposts. And at the same time, we're called into this future Pesach that Ezekiel, Yechezkel is mentioning, after the Galut, after the dispersion, the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, as a symbol of hope for the future. And so our loyalty to both spaces, I think, is what makes this moment so powerful. And of course, we are engaged in that lifting up of our homes. The rabbis say, after the Beit HaMikdash, how do we engage in kapara? How do we engage in atonement? How do we perform all these mitzvot? And they say that the home will actually become the space for that. I think that's been one of the great symbols of Judaism's resilience over the last 2,000 years. The rabbis say, Shulchano shel Adam mechaper, that the table that we put in our own homes will help us perform the atonement. So when we have a meal a Shabbat dinner like we did last night, or we have a meal of Pesach, it is in fact like the altar, except our table in our homes becomes this sacred space.